Again, talking to you about the next cool toys I've been playing with for my self-development and that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of like in a number of different minds about the whole thing. I've been seeing these adverts on Facebook for it, and it's what they call Shamanic Snuff, which is like it's a nasal snuff, a tobacco product, which is made with Nicotiana robustica, which is the very strong nicotine tobacco. But it's designed with extra herbs and ashes and other things. It's supposed to add like an extra like quality to the effect, and you're supposed to take it through a special blowpipe to put it up into the nose, and it is strong. Now, for me personally, it's been like a question of dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, and helping me to just like live my life better and have moments of contemplation. So I thought I'd give it a go. This is the first time I've tried any brand of this stuff, and I've got another one, a different variety, coming later on, as well as next week I'm going to get the proper blowpipes for it. So I started taking it the way in which I would take an Irish or Scottish style nasal snuff, which probably isn't brilliant, because that's when you just take a little bit, on the back of the hand and just allow the fragrance to do the work. You don't do that, because you don't want to put like all the fine ashes deep into your lungs. But you just being aware of the fragrance of it, and that's enough to take most of it up into your sinuses. But again, that's still not properly right. With the proper blowpipes, you're blowing out, so there's only certain heights that the snuff can go into the nose itself. And I think that's probably why the blowpipe, the Curape, is used to deliver this stuff into the body. Now, as far as like the effect it's had on me, it's been, it's described as being grounding. The best way I can describe it is like if it's been a really, really hot day, you've been out and about doing a lot of stuff, you've been sweating like crazy, you sweated out all of like the sodium and potassium and electrolytes out of your body, and then you have one of those isotonic drinks, or you eat some food which has got salt in it, and you suddenly feel put back together again. It's that kind of effect. All the chatter that's been going on in your mind, it's kind of like silenced. And so it's like a mindfulness type effect. This stuff is not like a British, American, or European nasal snuff. It's not taken for the nicotine. It's not taken for the uplifted, stimulated, rapid talking, buzzing, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. It's taken much more for a dour, meditative thing. Apparently, people who do the ayahuasca ceremony thing to get out of their head, and look at themselves and have the DMT going around their brain, before they end up in that kind of like intense state, they would take some of this type of stuff so that they can have like a mentally blank sheets to go into the experience, apparently. And other people, before they take magic mushroom and that kind of stuff, and want to go into themselves in a kind of like a trippy way, they would also take this, as they call it, shamanic snuffs, to give them calm and focus and concentration, apparently. But in its own right, because I've only used it yesterday, I haven't used it today, it's only the first time I've experienced it. It is this thing which I believe could be useful for meditation. And if I was to compare that to my experiences with yerba mate, the tea, the herbal tea made with Elixis paraguensis, or whatever the fuck it's called, that holly bush, which is used to make yerba mate, which is both very high in caffeine, but also very calming and relaxing. It reminds me of that kind of effect. And I think that's interesting because the the more sort of like ceremonial aspect of shamanic snuff is that people do it prior to intention, or they take it with intention to either look at themselves introspectively or for more sort of like spiritual work. But when I was using yerba mate at one time, then I went out to this meeting and there was this person there who was going through emotional crisis, and I sent energy, which I could do with greater ease because I was relaxed and focused, but also my energy field was like on fire because of all the intense caffeine within the yerba mate. She could feel it, and even though she didn't know I was doing it, afterwards she thanked me for sending her the energy, for helping her feel better without me having. I was at the other side of the room. There was distance between me and her. There was nothing that I was doing that could make her think. I wasn't chanting. I wasn't doing nothing like that. There was just, she just felt it. So if that's the case, that these shamanic snuffs made from Nicotiana robustica, or no, Nicotiana, what's it called? Rustica, which is the, strong nicotine tobacco grown organically, and it has this like sobering, calming, relaxing, focusing, but also high nicotine, high energizing effect. Could it also be used in a similar way to, build intention, to be able to send that, maybe to use that alongside radionic work and something similar, to have that like more empowered energy field so that you can then send your intention more effectively to a particular target, a person, a situation, using the radionic machines and so on and so forth. There are. I'm going to be honest with you. There are some websites out there that say they sell shamanic snuffs, and yes, they do this type. But they also do other types, which are visionary. Namely, they've got like things in them of questionable legality, maybe even like ayahuasca itself or other DMT containing herbs. So be aware that you got to research what you're buying. This one here is just nicotine with some specially made ashes from, I don't know where it's from. Its name is Shamanawa Hape, which makes me sound incredibly cultural appropriation. So forgive that for the moment. And it was made by some indigenous tribe somewhere in the Amazon rainforest, apparently. So, this is like a traditional thing. Apparently, all the various different tribes out there have their own specific sacred snuff that they use for similar purposes, just like sitting down, relaxing, entering into meditation, sorting out their issues. But it's a strong snuff. What I've found is that when I used it yesterday, there was some like how shall I put it? Issues, ideas, concerns that were going around me for a while, and this stuff seemed to clear a lot of it. Okay, tiny, like a match head quantity of this stuff just seemed to clear a lot of it. And I thought about these particular issues and problems that were going around me in a more kind of like intelligent, clear-minded, balanced way. I'm also taking extracts of lion's mane at the moment, which is just good to keep yourself on top of your game, because it's a nootropic. All right, but I think that there's something with occasional use. It's not like a regular nicotine product which you just use throughout the day to try and keep yourself going throughout all the various different day-to-day chores and stuff, and keep yourself drugged up with nicotine. It's like this clearing effect to the mind. It's like this removal of or reduction in stuff which has been there because of various forms of toxicity in your mind or in your life or some stuff, and to start to see things in a much greater sober level. I mean, some people describe this online as being like your energies becoming in alignment, or your chakras being in alignment. It's, man, that description makes sense, because it's just this feeling of like presence properly in the moment, and focused and clear-minded, proper, like super appropriately well adjusted mindset, quite clear, and with like none of the more like immature, stupid, childish issues coming to the surface from like your past or your present or worries about the future. It's just a question of, okay, we're here now. I've got things to do now. I'm just going to focus on this. And it also really encouraged me to like just sit still and be in this state of stillness. So the people who say that like these like shamanic snuffs, these ceremonial grade snuffs, are good for meditation, that would make some sense, because I've used my mindfulness recording programs on my phone and on the internet, and they're good. But if you're entering into a mindfulness meditation, but you're not in a very mindful state, it's kind of like you're hoping to have trained yourself to be in a mindfulness state by the end of it, or through subsequent usage. This stuff is quicker and probably would be very good before doing something like a mindfulness recording and a mindfulness practice, because it takes you to that point whereby you can just be in that state with greater ease. You can have that clarity of thought with greater ease, and therefore maybe the kind of like programming you're giving yourself about mindfulness becomes more real, more present, more then and there. I mean, it was a good experience. I mean, obviously you're putting this like ashen powder up your nose, and it's some aspects of the flavor is okay. Some aspects of the flavor is kind of like, oh my man, why do I have to experience that? But that's not really something to worry about too much. I mean, I suppose, I mean, I was only using a very little. If I was using like the larger quantities that is kind of like recommended, using the Curipe, the blowpipe thing, then it would have had a more extreme effect. Okay. And also some say that you may end up like feeling sick or throwing up, or having a whopping great bowel motion, because like, oh my god, your body needs to get rid of some stuff. And I think that could just be like the really, really strong nicotine and other stuff which is inside it. I don't know. I felt a little queasy afterwards, but I didn't feel like throwing up or going for a whopping great dump. Uh, but I think that's just like part of it doing its job. It's just, as it is a different experience, you kind of like want to use it in this kind of like pseudo ceremonial mindfulness type state. There's just this desire that I don't, I'm not using this so I can be like a lively, cool person in a party. I'm not using this so I can be like full of myself and feel hyper good. I'm using this because I want to be centered. I'm using this because I want to be here. not obsessing about the future or worried about the past, but putting the past into perspective and developing like this clear, sane, wholesome, understanding, balanced focus, and to actually enjoy it. I mean, often when we're trying to get into like mindfulness meditation, the need to be on the other side of it, all right, to have a more spiky mentality, to have a more intense mentality, to get pleasure from the concerns and worries and fears and angers and irritabilities and anxieties we've got, because like we're all motivated by society to be in this intense state. You know, I mean, which isn't healthy. Okay, it isn't healthy to be permanently in that state of I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do, you know, this, or what happened there, or this, that, and the other, and blaming this and you know, all this crazy stuff, which is like, you know, we're motivated by our education, we're motivated by the workplace, we're motivated by the state of mind of needing to feel that we feel inside as good as we think other people look, which just isn't right. It isn't healthy. It isn't wholesome. It isn't good for us. You know, it's just like, you know, taking a step away from that and creating this more sort of like wellness state of mind. Now, obviously, it isn't a healthy thing to do. It isn't a healthy thing to do. You're putting a lot of nicotine and whatever other alkaloids and other stuff which is present in tobacco into your body. You're putting this fine ash into your body. There's a possibility that some of it could even get into your lungs. So, you know, there's lots of like negatives to the thing. But again, it's not something you want to take every day. It's not like my other forms of nicotine habit that I've got. You know, it's not like that. I suppose it's a very strange, different experience, which, alongside other like contemplative practices that you've got, could like, it's just something else to think about. You know, I'm not going to turn around to you and say, "Oh, this is the way, the truth, and the light. You got to do it." No, man, no way, no way, no way. But it's definitely like it's definitely a thing which interests me, and I can draw that parallel between these Nicotiana, rustica or robustica, or whatever the fuck it is, snuffs, as well as yerba mate. It's got that thing to it, which is both clear and alert. It's like there was like layers of my energy field that was like, you know, toxic above my head, and when I took the snuff, it just sort of like cleared it, and I like this sense of a more intelligent assessment of what I should be thinking and what I should be doing and how I should be living. Just kind of like push that negativity aside, and it was good. It was good. I mean, that's the bottom line here. Is like it was a different experience, and it was good. Mm. So, you know, Google around for some shamanic snuff and see whether that can help you to, you know, take a moment out of your week and become that little bit more centered, and to enjoy being centered. It's not a question of like, you like thinking all those people who are doing all that mindfulness meditation. I mean, that's not going to satisfy me. That's not going to do it. This kind of stuff will just give you mindfulness. It will just put you in that state, and you will enjoy it. And then you can start to understand the importance of like doing everything else. You know, the chakra visualizations and color visualizations and yeah, it's cool.